We would like to welcome Sherrif Hopefull, my man Pat Lebat.
Yes, sir.
He came to use our platform to get some information now, so maybe he could hit a different demographic, a whole nother audience. Kill the music. We talking politics.
Yeah, this
today.
shit real, Mr.
What's
Lebat.
going on? Let's go through some of these asterisks by your name.
There you go.
30 years of service in public safety.
So, absolutely. I'm from here, born and raised in Atlanta. Frederick Douglass High School, Clark Atlanta University.
West side.
No stranger to hard work. I started working 11 at night to 7 in the morning at the jail, and then going to school during the daytime. And over 20 years, worked my way up through the ranks, and in 2010, I was appointed chief. And we ran one of the most humane facilities in the country, all right? Doesn't matter where you come from, care and custody and customer service is what we focused on.
Right.
And so now it's time to do something different, move to the next platform and figure out how we can have a seat at the table and change the dynamics of law enforcement.
10 years as chief, oversaw a $30 million budget while serving on the mayor's executive team.
Yes.
Served as president of the Georgia chapter of National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. What the hell is that?
So that's Noble, right? Noble was established, and part of the mission is justice by action, right? And so you see some of the things, and it's more relevant today than it was when it was created 76 years ago.
Right.
And that is to give us a platform, right, in an environment that wasn't dominated by us, and figure out how to train better, how to get better leadership, so that we can become chiefs of police, we can become sheriffs across the country in a field dominated not by us.
Right, because we definitely need y'all on the other end, especially in the judicial system. We ain't got too many of us
representing
us. You dig what I'm saying? And and we got to really bridge the gap with just the community and the police. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, the war is not against the people in the police. It's against the injustice. And the people, like, you clearly see the George Floyd situation was literally just
murder.
That's purpose. Like,
murder.
I've been apprehended before. You dig what I'm saying? I know how it is. Put me in handcuffs, nigga, I'm no danger to you.
I agree.
You dig what I'm saying?
Agree.
So when you see stuff like that, and then the civilians get routed up, like, we got to even have that force and feel protected from y'all.
I agree.
You dig what I'm saying? So we know, like, our people are with us and behind us. You dig what I'm saying? But we don't have that community right now.
Well, we got to have a seat at the table,
Right.
We got to have the right leadership. And that was murder. I don't care how you look at it, including the 3 officers that stood by and did nothing.
Right.
All right. And as long as we have a seat at the table, we can begin to change the dynamic of what that looks like. And that's why we have to focus on that. Because in every field of human endeavor, we need somebody that looks like us so that we can really lead that.
Right.
Lead the conversation.
Because they're not talking for us.
At all.
They assuming what we like, and they're assuming because it's really beneficial to them.
Well, the piece is we have to create an environment that's beneficial to us.
Right.
All right. So I got 4 kids. We got a blended family, 2 girls, 25 years old, and 2 boys. I cringe every time they leave the house. They're 21 years old.
Right.
I cringe every time they leave the house because that could have been any one of them on the ground.
Right.
Let me ask you this: where does so much of the aggression come from between the police and black people? For you being in law enforcement so long, like, what's the culture behind that?
Like, you have to pull a nigga over. You assume he got weed on him. You just target him.
Well, it's not. I won't say it's about targeting as much as it's about a lack of training, the lack of communication, right?
So we hear that a lot, the lack of training. What does that mean?
So that means that, and follow me with this, right?
Oh, we with you.
Follow me. So both my boys are 21, right? Imagine if they can do the one thing that most people can't, and that is they can go join the police force, right? Follow me. Get trained, be issued a weapon, and be allowed to take someone's life, right?
Right.
Now take a look at your partners, right? As I look at my son, and I know that they're gonna put him in the worst parts of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. They're gonna put him 11 at night to 7 in the morning, so 2, 3 in the morning. Mm. Would you give a weapon to some of your friends and tell them to go patrol?
Now you talking.
So that's where training has to come in. We have to put them in high pressure situations so they know how to react.
How does that fall on the people, though, the lack of training for the police?
Well, here's the piece, right? Here's the piece. Under President Obama, the one thing that he created was a 21st century policing platform. And the very first pillar in that platform talks about diversity. talks about being a part of the community. We talked earlier, if you police your own community,
Right.
then you know the people there.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so the best example I gave earlier today when I was talking with Ronnie Jordan is, again, I'm from here.
Right.
I'm hanging out on Beach or over near Cascade. I'm flying up the street. I just got my license at 16. Police officer pulls up behind me. You know the feeling when them blue lights come on,
Both
right? He walks up to the car and he said, well, where's the fire, right? No aggression. He looks, he said, I know your mama. Take me to jail. Don't tell my mama.
Right.
See, I don't want none of that. Take
Right.
me to jail. But that's where we got to get back to. We got to get back to people policing their own communities and in an environment where we're working together to make that happen. It starts with conversations like this.
Right.
How many people would come in here and have an honest conversation about this at that level?
But it takes people for like you to get into a powerful enough position where you like, whew, we got a nigga that's willing to listen to us. You dig what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody what you running for? What you running for?
Sheriff.
Sheriff, right?
Sheriff of Fulton County.
Ain't no niggas running for that shit. I'm gonna be 100. You dig what I'm
I'm
saying?
with you.
So we gotta make a change if we got to step into the system because they have a system. We gotta rewrite the system. If niggas understand that, they trying to understand what they see.
Right.
That's why
I
they
agree.
so
I agree.
misguided. The system, you
I agree.
can't see a system.
agree.
It's a system. So if you there at the table and I can be like, man, I'm finna call my buddy back. Cause hey, you feel me? It's just too much going on and we can make that phone call. He gonna be like, hey DC, you know your folks was a little rough. I'm like, you know what? I'll take care of that. But we need to come to a consensus.
But we got to have that communication.
We got to have that
That's
communication.
what
They
I was
don't
getting
wanna
ready to
have
ask
that
you. Like, why
communication.
is it important to you to become the sheriff at
Well,
a moment like this?
At a moment, it's a pivotal time for us. We can change the dynamics of law enforcement just by having this communication. I could ride off in the sunset. Let me be clear. I got a good pension.
Right.
Make no bones about it. 30 years of hard work with the City of Atlanta Department of Corrections, retired as chief, and people are saying, why are you? This is my community.
Right.
This is my community. And I can't sit by on the sidelines and do nothing.
Right.
We got to have that voice because here's part of the problem. We teach our kids and young men like yourselves to ask why.
Right.
But then we get mad when you ask why.
Talk your talk, OG.
We got to do better
Exactly.
because people just want to be heard. Now that's both internally and externally.
Right.
And what I mean is, as chief, one of the first things I did at the city was sat down with all my team members, right? Ask whatever questions you want to ask. But what you're charged with is doing a better job than you did yesterday and adding value to what we do. And so we have to figure out how to bridge that gap, just like you said.
Right.
And as we start bridging that gap, we know better, right? So we got to do better. And we have to figure that part out.
Right. So this is my thing though, is like, I feel like this is the people and the bullshit that comes between the people and the police, and the bullshit in the middle. It's like, we don't see videos of black police officers accidentally shooting white people
Talk
every
your
day.
talk,
So
OG.
where is the lack of training? Are they just not training the white officers?
think
the
them niggas
same, or
know
what?
better.
Like,
Well, here's the thing. It's I would submit to you it's less about that, but it's also about fear. It's about fear. When you have a white police officer who they're arresting somebody that doesn't look like them, right? Or we talked earlier about when they do arrest somebody that looks like them, they're taking them to Burger King first.
Right.
Right? It's a level of
After
fear.
you killed 23 niggas.
It's 9, but I got you.
Oh, the other one killed 23.
Oh, you talking about? No, I'm talking about South Carolina. The guy that went to Burger King.
But there's more than one. Go ahead.
And what you're saying, right? What you're saying. I'm with you. That's real.
we here.
That's real. But it's also about supervision,
Right.
right? And moving through that conversation so that we can, again, train in high pressure situations and really begin to resolve the problem. Now, here's the other thing, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Here's the other thing. I'd love for, and we talked about this earlier as well, I'd love for us, once I become sheriff, to have you all come sit in on what that training looks like.
Bro,
Right.
we with all that.
Because then that gives you an opportunity to help us get better, right? Because it's real life and it's not just a practical exercise.
Let me ask you a simple question. How many police officers does it take to take a black man to jail?
That's not as simple as you would think, right? And I say that from the perspective of
One that's not resistant.
well, now it shouldn't take any but
Right.
one. right?
That's what
Now,
our training. That's what our training. We got to tell them don't resist. That's what our training. But I'm saying one that's not resisting.
Well, are we talking specifically about George Floyd?
No, we're talking
about
about
a
a black
whole
man.
bunch.
I just need to be
because
clear.
every black man in this room has been pulled over, and a few have been unfortunate enough to have to take that ride. But it don't take 6 of them to do that.
Yeah, no.
No, I agree, and shouldn't, right?
But they use 6.
Well, it depends
in
on who it
most
is.
cases.
Depends on who it is and where it is, right? Because oftentimes the facts show that they don't have 6 people available to do that, right? Because they're shorthanded, right? But again, let's look at what happened in and throughout other parts of the country, right? Where you have people being put in paddy wagons, alive, and pulled out, not so alive.
Exactly.
Right? But what we were able to do on the front end was take all our paddy wagons, equip them with video equipment, right, that was recording whether the van was on or not.
What's the purpose of having body cameras if they never turn
I
on?
was just going to say, especially one that's turned off.
And I agree with you.
Intentionally, like, man, fuck that.
I agree with you, but here's the thing. At the City of Atlanta, one thing that we did was control that environment. So when you start running, the camera comes on. When you pull out your weapon, the camera comes on. See, you remove the choice of turning it off.
Okay,
right?
but they also had the choice before it was a gun. It was like mace and the stick, flashlights and shit like that. What made them, and the taser, what made them jump over all that and grab the gun?
Which time?
Every time.
Anytime. Well,
yeah.
And I don't disagree with you.
Right.
And it's an escalating use of force, right?
They jump over all them options.
But it also goes back to what I said earlier, is fear, right?
But you supposed to be securing us. Why you scared of the civilians?
Well,
You shouldn't be in that field. If
You got
can't-
all the weapons?
You got everything that needs to control the situation. What are you scared of a nigga that doing this? Why you scared of me?
again, we got to keep in mind, right? And we're talking about most cases
Right.
where you have people that want to go home at the end of the day. And
Wanna kill me just to go home, right?
No, that's how we train, right? We train to mentally think, I'm already scared, right? It's not about why, it's about how we change it. How we change that concept.
This has been
concept.
one of people's loudest arguments, that we need more black people in law enforcement.
I agree.
Do you agree with that?
I agree.
We definitely need it.
I agree. As you look around, so Atlanta's the exception. Let me be clear.
APD
Atlanta's
have a
the
lot of
exception.
black people, right?
Right. But we need more black folks in law enforcement. Make no bones about it. Right. It doesn't pay as well as people want it to pay. Right. But we need people that have a seat at the table so we can do better beyond where we are. Does that make sense?
It does, but I haven't seen any difference in the treatment between a black officer and a white officer. In most cases, the black officer will treat you worse.
Because they overpowered. It's like we don't have enough. We sprinkled through the judicial shit. Like we sprinkled. It might be 3 niggas over here between 100 white people. Bro, his voice is, he had no power. He ran 100 white people. He finna do exactly what them honkies finna do, man. You dig what I'm saying? It's a lot of people that's not really with that shit, but they can't do nothing because it's an oath, it's a code. Them niggas ain't speaking up. They like, I hear you, my nigga, but just, you know what I'm saying? Just go down there with it right quick. You feel what I'm saying? I'm with you. Like, that's how they gotta talk during the protest. I'm with you. Nigga, you the law, nigga, talk, nigga.
The other piece, though, is what I'm hearing you say, and you're 3,000% correct. We got to change the culture. We got to change the culture. And when we do that from internally, it'll get better.
You've been in the culture. What is the culture?
The
What's the culture of law enforcement?
30 years.
Well, I mean, you brought up a great point, right?
Right.
Think about what you said. When you go to Cobb County,
Whew, don't go.
right? you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's and to steal what you said, right? It's sprinkled, and so the culture it becomes one of individuals adapting to their surroundings.
Right.
Right. Instead of standing up.
Right.
Until you can get to that point. Right.
So is it a negative environment inside the culture?
Well, it's less about negative and more about survival sometimes. Keep in mind, right? Keep in mind when the first 8 Atlanta police officers couldn't even get dressed in the police precinct, right? They had to go down to the Butler Street YMCA, right? So that culture had to begin to evolve.
Yeah, and they couldn't arrest white people either.
And couldn't arrest white folks.
You see what the fuck I'm saying?
So, but again, it's about evolving. And
The police told them niggas they couldn't arrest them.
That's my
That's
point.
crazy.
That's my point. And so when we change that systemically,
Right.
We can create an environment on that. And let me give you a couple facts, right? Under President Bush, his last term, right, the Department of Justice put out some information that showed there were 12 to 13 interactions about maltreatment on police. Under President Obama, in his first term, there were 15. Under 45, our current president, there was 1. So the question you have to ask yourself is, who's policing the police? In this case, nobody. Nobody. So we got to do a better job of policing the police internally.
Why do the police black people, black communities, and black neighborhoods differently than they do white communities?
I would tell you that
it's just as much crime in the white community.
Here's the question.
A lot of cocaine.
A lot of drugs, a lot of pills. They abusing all the prescription drugs.
No,
Are we snitching?
No, they on meth.
We snitching.
No, you can see it in their face. You can see it in their face. We ain't snitching. This nigga itching right now.
Let's take it from this perspective. And I tell people this all the time, right? Who calls the police on people?
Right.
Right? If police show up in your neighborhood, who called them?
We don't know. There's always they got a call. They don't tell you who made the call.
Well, here's my point, right? One thing we know is they didn't call because everybody's singing too loud in the choir.
Let me ask you this. This is killing me.
Talk your shit.
How the hell?
He open.
Okay.
How can we all fit the same description?
Well,
As black men, ain't no way we all fit the same description. Who is writing the fucking descriptions?
and I don't disagree. I fit the same description.
Black. Who?
Right?
What's the thing? I think all
How?
black
Like,
suspects.
nobody
No, I
ever
agree.
questioned the lady who putting the descriptions out. Like,
Picture don't even be us.
does it ever change?
And we have the same issue, right? Same issue. I mean, it goes back to really high pressure situations and putting people in an environment where they revert back to their training.
Right.
And at that point, we can create an environment that does better. It goes back to what I said earlier. We got to be able to have conversations like this.
You gotta be able to really just communicate.
Right.
You feel me? Like, but I like the lane you approach, but we also gotta educate people on Black Wall Street. You feel me? And also give us a blueprint and saying that we can. Where it's like, yeah, we should try to vote you to be sheriff of Atlanta, but we really want you to be sheriff of a community.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? Where it's like, all right, you might end up having to be the sheriff of Georgia the way we orchestrate this shit and really become a black power, successful entrepreneur. You feel me? We can have a group of us where it's a list of us, but we don't have to go vote. We already know who we want.
No, we got to go vote.
I mean, we always got to go vote, but we
Gotta
come up
go
with our
vote.
own plan. We ain't got to vote no more.
But that's and I don't disagree, but I would tell you one, we certainly always got to go vote.
Right.
The other thing is that, to your point, this is just the beginning for many of us. And as long as we can have a conversation, we can change the dynamic. Anytime we stop communicating, it's like a bad marriage.
Right.
Right? You stop communicating, then it's only going to get worse.
Right.
But when is the system gonna start listening?
When I get to the top of it.
That's what I was getting ready to
Because
ask you.
it's like all
In
these
your time.
protesters, they heard exactly what the fuck going on. Like they heard, but I don't be thinking that they listening. Cause the motherfuckers ain't, just like how you said APD is, like we know APD got so many black police officers.
Right.
So if we take that initiative and understand the system, if we put our own black people, or if we want, or even the people that's of color want to do something, all of a sudden it just seems like all the black people want to be police, they come to APD. If we have a whole gang of just people that just want to make a change and do that, we can start small. Like how you said, the first four, what was the four? First 8 had to go down the street to the YMCA, and now we done took over.
No, I agree.
Let me ask you this.
That's a
What
blueprint.
did you do
I
in
think
your
y'all should be
time?
telling niggas about that.
What did you do in your time in law enforcement to change some of that culture?
So let me tell you, one of the things I'm most proud of is we created the #1 reentry program in the country. So we partnered with the State Department of Corrections. And I won't say most proud of because I got a couple programs. We partnered with the State Department of Corrections if somebody that looks like us, right? And it wasn't limited to race, let me be clear. But it was limited to gender only because we got so many males arrested and incarcerated throughout the country.
They changed the culture.
Well, and this is part of changing the culture. So with 15 to 18 months left on their sentence, we became a certified transitional center. And one of the things that most incarcerated folks face coming out are challenges with being employed. Right? So we led this conversation and had jobs while they were in prison. So instead of leaving with $25 in a bus ticket, you left with $20,000, $30,000 in the bank, right? You left with a job. You left with a sense of dignity because I don't have to go back to where I was, right? And in an environment where my future is much brighter.
Right.
And so they still are city employees to this day.
Damn, niggas gonna be going to prison just to get their credit right.
But that's not an unreal situation. That's
I'm
true.
Do 6 months. I'm gonna get my credit right.
But those,
I'm just bullshit, Mr. Lebat. I'm just bullshit, Mr. Lebat.
but those are the kinds of things that we had the vision enough to do.
Right.
And the other thing is really put an interruption in this school to prison pipeline. Mm-hmm. So every Thursday we'd send our officers over to read with third grade students. Right? I'm dyslexic. I make no bones about it. Right? I leave out the, them, that, and change the whole connotation of a meaning of a paragraph. But to add support to those, especially that look like us, that don't read well. Right? We close that gap.
Right.
And for me, over the years, it was about how do we close those gaps.
Right.
We created a junior corrections program that, for me, I told them earlier, I graduated, thank you, Lordy, from Douglas, right? I went straight A nothing, right? That's how we get through.
Went through.
But at an opportunity, I had a chance to change some of that. We created a junior correction officer program, and yes, we took people through the jail. We took them through the courts. We took them through the homeless shelters, but we also took them to Hartsville Jackson.
Right.
We also took them to Charlie Brown Airport. And so as you see those planes lift off, you see their hopes lift off. Mm-hmm. You see their vision get a little more clear that I can do anything that I want to do. Right. But we also took them to the morgue. So this was about choices. And so for me, those are the top 3 things that we were able to do, including feeding seniors. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday and Wednesday, we fed over 200 to 300 senior citizens in the community. Right. So we were able to move internally from a jail perspective into our community.
Sometimes morality has to be taught so people can understand, like, okay, it's options to how I want to live or where I want to go, or just by me, or what am I doing that helping my surroundings, like with my people. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm reading a book that's basically saying, fuck with people that's around you. Damn you. If you can't help the nigga that's around you, you wasteful. You wasting your power. You wasting your talent. You see what I'm saying?
And this is what I tell each and every one of my staff members, and I continue to live by it, and it's exactly what you said. If anybody in this room haven't met me today cannot use me, that makes me useless. Right? Now, I don't say abuse people, but if you can't use that person to your left and to your right for good and have the resources like you said, then that makes them useless.
Exactly.
And you got to get rid of that dead weight in order to continue to take off and lift and be that positive influence.
Like we understand and I understand the authority, and I understand how y'all, you know what I'm saying, should be talked to, like not just saying like in a proper manner. Like I understand the what's the word that I'm looking for? The code when I'm talking to the police. You feel what I'm saying? I know y'all have the authority. So I'm not finna come at y'all with aggression. Fuck you, pull me over for a shout. Even though I want to say that, like, no, hey,
you gonna respect the law, right?
I give you respect. Hey, how you doing? Niggas don't even, y'all niggas ain't even respecting, hey, how you doing, sir?
So here's the thing.
Fuck up.
But we gotta change that. We gotta change that. Because it happens the other way around. It should be, yes, sir. No, sir. This is why I stopped you, sir.
Right. Y'all should be talking to us like that.
And
you turn straight to a slave. I'm so sorry, sir.
In order to get respect.
My license, sir.
Well, in order to get respect, you got to give respect.
Right.
And that's where we change the dynamic of the conversation, because that's how we should be approaching. I told you, customer service starts at day one.
Like even when I do like community like service stuff, I want y'all to be a part of the community stuff too. Like even when the COVID shit happened, right? Like I couldn't call, I know the mayor, but like I couldn't call her, or I would, if I had your number, I'd be like, boy, Mr. Lebat, I'm finna push up. I know this is unannounced, but how do I go by it the right way? Just so nobody who worked in enforcement come try to tear it down or think we doing something. I'm only feeding the community. Now, if I had your support or somebody that was there on your behalf who understand, boom, oh, what's going on? Oh, Mr. Lebat sent me. What? God damn it, Mr. Lebat, I fuck with you. y'all post it. So if anybody here, y'all are protecting the community because we here for a good cause. I'm here only to feed my community. That's all I want to know because COVID shit just went crazy. These folks finna go crazy. So I came up with a plan to just say, you know what? I'm gonna feed my community so they can calm down, so they know that somebody got their support. And not only do y'all got somebody support, look at the police officers. They not here tripping on y'all. They here making sure that who's safe. Y'all niggas safe. They ain't stunning y'all. They know what y'all here for, but they here to make sure y'all safe. We don't have that connection. Period. We don't have that connection.
I would tell you we take it a step further. You make a phone call like that, then I need to know how to support you in that effort. So not just standing around.
Right.
We need to get involved.
Right.
We need to get involved. So I look forward to that opportunity.
Fucking right.
And let's make it happen.
I
But we gotta get folks to vote.
I
know we getting tight on time.
Mr. Lebat, come on. Mr. Lebat, you gotta vote. What? Mr. Lebat? Nah. Hey, Mr. Lebat.
That's what I was saying before we get you out of here. I don't know if you want to take a few minutes to speak on some of the platforms that you're running on, some of the changes that you bring to the table, why we need you as our sheriff.
So again, first, let me say thank you.
well,
Right, it's an amazing platform. I appreciate what you all are doing to really increase the conversation. For me, it's about a way of life of changing what our law enforcement looks like from the inside out. We can do that, and then become a part of the community. So, a couple things as you talked about in terms of the platform. Right, we got to improve our jail conditions. Right, just because a person has been arrested doesn't mean they need to be treated inhumanely.
Exactly.
Right? You look at the South Fulton Annex, it houses women. They're under a federal lawsuit or going through a federal lawsuit now because you got women out there that hadn't had a shower in a month or two.
God damn.
Right? You got to care. You got to care about how you treat people.
Right.
Our job is care in custody. If you want to judge somebody, you need to go down the street to Georgia State Law School, get your law degree, put a black robe on, and become a judge, right? Our job is care in custody. How do we focus on that? We focus on that through customer service, right? We got to do a better job of serving warrants, right? We got so many brothers out here with warrants that we know have done bad things. Circle around domestic violence, right? If you've ever been in a situation where your mama or your sister has been vulnerable in that space, we got to do a better job of protecting our community, just like you said. And so we have to focus on those things, but we have to do it in our communities.
Is there anything in your plan for nonviolent offenders?
Nonviolent offenders,
that reform comes up a lot also.
and nonviolent offenders is a little easier issue for me, and I say it like that because I helped Mayor Bowden spearhead the cash bail reform piece, right? We talked earlier, and we say all the time, and I grew up in a system that was the exact opposite. Let me be clear. But you shouldn't just be in jail because you're poor, right? You should be afforded an opportunity to justice and adequate representation throughout. Right. And so that part of bail reform for us is the easier part. You know, there's some sheriff's office, you know, you get processed in and you come on out for misdemeanors, right? And what that looks like.
It's
now,
a signature bond.
a signature bond,
Right,
absolutely,
right.
absolutely. And but let me say, just because I'm law enforcement doesn't give anybody in this room or other places the right to run rampant. Right. Again, a great example. When I became chief, we were so oppressed as a department. I had the union tell me we expected to have a revolution. Well, what's that mean? You don't come to work on time? What's that mean? No, just because I'm black and I'm in charge does not give anybody the authority to break the law.
Yeah, what's what you saying? Right? Don't go crazy and call you.
Well, no, you can still call me.
Oh yeah, I'm calling you.
Still call me.
I'm not looking at back. These niggas ain't tripping. Listen to back.
You can still call me. And I'm gonna tell you, you know what? I'm so glad they did their job. I'm on my way to see you.
Come say no
I'm
more.
gonna come see you.
Say no
so
more.
I say that to say, look, we have a unique opportunity.
Right.
And even more so because there's no Republican opposition running for sheriff, which means we can start the conversation in late August about how you all as a group want to have part of the sheriff's office, what it looks like, right? Then I'll have my own thoughts and how we move forward. And then how we begin that conversation. Because can you imagine the platform of us working together to feed people, to educate people, right?
To keep people out of jail.
So
to keep people
you
out of jail.
Now, them people that's at Fulton County Courthouse, that's in the brown suit, they sheriffs.
That's the sheriff.
They sheriffs too.
That's the sheriff.
But them niggas, like, what is y'all position? Cause the police be like, y'all niggas be just like, man, I ain't doing a goddamn thing. Goddamn.
Clearly, you have no idea how powerful the sheriff is.
So
I know, but them niggas be chilling.
well, but to your point, I mean, you bring up an excellent point.
Right.
We gotta change the dynamics of what that looks like.
Right.
When you walk in, and well, first of all, you'll be coming to see me. I don't mean from a perspective of me coming to see you.
Right.
You'll be coming to see me. But when you walk in, the professionalism and the courtesy that goes along with it, we have to change that dynamic for it to be a positive experience.
Right.
Because you're absolutely right. The fact that you recognize that there are sheriff deputies down there that aren't as professional as they should be.
Very disrespectful.
Right.
You need to go back through that metal detector, little boy.
We're gonna change that. We'll change that. We'll change that. But that's not just for you. That's for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no problem with saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. We have to change the culture. And I am a firm believer that starts with us.
It is.
That starts with us on this side, right? Because what you'll never be able to say about me is no little boys out of here. It's, sir, can we get you to go back to the metal detector, right? Sir, and I get to a point, and this is what really, over my career, this is what this level of law enforcement has taught. I would say, listen, I apologize. Maybe you didn't hear me, but I'm gonna need you to go back through the metal detector.
Say no more.
Right?
See, it makes us even want to do it again, because we like, you know what, maybe I did fuck up. I'll go back.
We'll make it happen.
It's all good,
We'll
man. We
make it
appreciate you, Mr. Lebat.
Hey, we appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Oh, it's love.
I appreciate you.
Hey,
appreciate
you gotta
you
go,
coming
though.
through.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay married.
gotta
Y'all not
smoke.
gonna trick me. My wife said, you better be in front of this Zoom meeting.
Much luck to you, and
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate
see you
it.
in the future.
Yes, sir.
Hold up. You ain't telling them where to go vote. Shit, now. They gonna be in the comment like, what happened?
All right, so,
Yeah, hold up. Sit back down.
okay. All right, so June 9th is election day. And so the county will have over 100 precincts open. You can pull it up on my website, Lebat for Sheriff, tell you exactly where to go vote. All my social media is Lebat for Sheriff. If you vote before Friday, there's 6 locations, the closest one being Adamsville, the C.T. Martin Rec Center. And you can go in. They've done a better job, gotten more machines so people can get in and out. But we got to go vote. We got to go vote. And so if you haven't voted in the primary, you'll have haven't voted earlier in March, you'll have an opportunity to vote for president as well. And so that is how we change this conversation.
Well, we appreciate
We
you stopping
vote for your
through,
ass. I ain't
using the
lying.
platform.
I
Good
appreciate
luck.
you.
Hope you become the sheriff. Don't forget us when you do.
I want to come back.